The following podcast may contain spoilers, profanity, and views or opinions that may not be representative of the author's intent of the articles discussed. We don't always take ourselves or the subject matter seriously either. Listener discretion is advised.
Please subscribe to this Galactic Network podcast by going to gncast.com/subscribe or search iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, or anywhere podcasts are offered.
This week on Weird World Weekly, we are talking about haunted cemeteries. Woo! You ever been in a cemetery at night, Brad?
I have.
Did you experience anything weird?
No, it's just kind of a creepy place to be.
Yeah. We had a cemetery by our house when I was growing up, and a friend of mine and me were walking through it at night, and we kind of stopped by a grave, and we actually heard stones scraping against each other. It was the creepiest thing, and we hauled ass. We got out of there real quick. ASAP. We're gone. But this is actually a haunted cemetery, a real bona fide haunted cemetery. It's Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, a small abandoned cemetery in Bremen Township, Cook County, Illinois, in Chicago's southwest suburbs. It is well known for its haunted reputation and supposed ghost sightings. It's known as the most haunted cemetery in the country.
Huh.
I saw this on a show I was watching, so I thought I'd do some research to find out more about it. The most common of the reported phenomena at the site typically involves floating orbs of light over tombstones and near collisions with a phantom vehicle.
Wow.
Yeah. That would scare the bejesus out of you.
Yeah. While you're talking about this, I want to take a look and see if we can find what kind of vehicle that it is.
Okay. You'd think it'd be an older vehicle just because, you'd think ghosts, olden days, old cars,
Is it a Packard? Is it what kind of, is it a Model T? Who knows? I don't look into it though.
All right. So it was established in 1840. The small area surrounding the cemetery was soon abandoned by the English homesteaders who relocated from Chicago to New England, leaving the graves behind. So it's all these people died because of various causes, and their family just left them. So that's why I'm thinking that they're pissed off because nobody's coming to see them anymore. We're like, we gotta do something about it. So they started scaring people. Bachelor's Grove is most famous for the ghost stories that surround the strange plot of land at the end of the long gravel road. One of the most famous images of a supposed ghost was captured at the graveyard. The White Lady, or Madonna of Bachelor's Grove, is rumored to be the spirit of a woman who is buried next to her child. Oftentimes, she's seen wandering the cemetery during the full moon, holding the body of a baby in her arms. That's not a little bit freaky at all.
Wow.
Here's my baby. Can you help my baby? I imagine that's what she says. But she probably doesn't. She probably doesn't speak at all because ghosts don't usually talk. Unless they're talking to Ebenezer Scrooge. Or Casper the Friendly Ghost. Or what's another ghost from TV or movies?
There was Spooky,
the
ghost, who was another Harvey Comics ghost.
Oh, I'm not familiar with Spooky the Ghost.
Yeah, he was the one that wore the bowler hat.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look him up later.
I think he had like a reddish nose, and he had a bowler hat, and
doesn't sound like a traditional ghost.
He looked basically like Casper, only he had more of a New York attitude and a derby.
Okay. More than once, groups of people have come across a phantom farmhouse while making the gravel road hike late at night. The house appears as a picturesque white farmhouse in perfect condition before disappearing completely before their eyes. So I'm guessing that's probably a house that was there at one time that the English settlers had erected, and then once they left, it probably deteriorated and fell apart, right?
Sure.
In 1870, a farmer died after he and his horse plowed too close to the water's edge. They have both been spotted in spirit form years later, continuing to plow the area around the lagoon to this day. Only when you call out to him, he dissipates into nothing. So that's what you call there's a name for those spirits that do the same thing over and over again. And I can't think of it, right, what the term is. Many of the paranormal experiences at Bachelor's Grove Cemetery peaked in the 1970s and 80s, like the rash of people who in 1984 reported seeing the ghostly figure of a monk walking slowly across the cemetery towards the road. There are still groups who claim to see strange shadows and the sounds of arguing voices coming from the lagoon. And the story that I saw in the show that I watched, it was this woman who was going to meet this person to do a ghost investigation. They met, and then they went into the woods to do their investigation. They captured some audio on tape, and it was really creepy. Anyways, they couldn't find their way out for the life of them. They couldn't figure out where the trail was to go back out. And it was like they were going in circles. It'd been hours and hours they couldn't get out. It's like they were lost, but they weren't lost. It was like the spirits. Oh, the other thing was they got pelted with like rocks and sticks from nowhere. Like there were.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like a poltergeist type activity?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is Bachelor's Grove Cemetery outside of Chicago. So if you ever get a chance to, head that way, or if you are in that area, might want to check that out. Sounds interesting. Did you find out about the phantom car?
There's various phantom cars, but also one thing that I found here is that there's a two-headed ghost that was reported.
Cool.
And a black dog in the 90s that seemed to kind of guard the cemetery entrance.
I wonder how much of that stuff is like, stories that have come out of it, but not actual sightings. You know how that stuff happens?
I could see that, people trying to, I think, we've talked about urban legends, urban myths, and kind of the whole history of sitting around the campfire and telling ghost stories to scare people. I'm kind of wondering if that isn't something that it's plausible enough that if you told it a number of times and got other people to tell it, then it would kind of ring true for people because they'd heard so-and-so say it before.
But I think there are actually legitimate stories from the cemetery, because the article that I got this information from, had pictures posted in the article of of stuff that people actually experience. So we'll put that in the show notes. You can check it out for yourself. Now, you and Anessa have gone to Chicago a couple of times, right?
Sure. Yep.
Would you make a side trip if you had the time and check this place out?
Yeah, if we could, absolutely. But you really kind of have to go at night, so we'll have to try that.
Yeah.
If we're ever in Chicago and we're going to be there overnight.
If you have any thoughts on the story that we just talked about, leave us feedback by emailing weird@gncasts.com. That's GNCASTS.com. Weird@gncasts.com. You can call our voicemail number. It's 805-328-3966. Tweet at us, Facebook at us, or just leave a comment on the website, gncasts.com/weird.
Follow this Galactic Network podcast on Twitter, like our Facebook page, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Find us by searching for Galactic Network on all the major social networks or click on the icons at gncast.com.
Hello, I'm Gregor Sprague, and this is the Elts Nerds. Now, what are the Elts Nerds? Well, it's myself and Corey Scott, along with our producers Beatmaster and Evan Rockety, as we talk about everything that is on our nerdy little heart. Whether it be comic books, movies, TV shows, video games, cell phones, the moments that we're walking down the street and a person says hi, it doesn't matter. We talk about everything, and you can find it at eltsnerds.com.
Here on Weird World Weekly, we do the weird and the weekly in the world and stuff.
We've been doing less weekly, but I feel
less weekly. But we're still weird in the world. Obviously, one of the things that we do cover here is hauntings. When you think of hauntings, what do you think the most haunted generalized location would be?
Walmart.
You win. I do. Let's just stop it right there.
Not a way to argue that.
There's no way to argue how terrifying a Walmart is. But I meant cemeteries.
Close second.
Yeah, Walmart is kind of like a cemetery, but it's more like of a zombies. So the living dead instead of the dead.
But it's sweet, sweet discounts.
So you can roll back on those living deads at your local Walmart. I do want to talk about, it's a cemetery that's actually local to where I live. More local to where I grew up versus where I am now, but still local nonetheless. The Walmart.
I love that I got you going right into that.
Walnut Grove Cemetery in Glen Beulah, Wisconsin.
Booyah.
Glen Beulah is just west of Sheboygan, where I grew up, east of Fond du Lac if you're from Wisconsin, north of Milwaukee, south of Green Bay, kind of right in the middle there. But growing up, it was a huge thing. The Glen Beulah Cemetery is the most haunted place to teenagers before the internet. The story basically says a man hung himself there, and you can see an apparition late at night. It's terrifying. It was on TV's Unsolved Mysteries, but the biggest one to me is that when I was a kid, we were always told the Glen Beulah Cemetery, the tombstones change the names displayed at night, which is insane to me. So it'll say like Timmy Jacobs during the day, and at night it'll say Michael Smith. And that was the big thing. Unfortunately, I never made it there.
He probably doesn't want his ex to come visit him all the time. He's like, just back off, lady. You know, I did this away from you.
Had a little too much here. Cindy,
what a terrible choice for a name. Like that is the perfect going into a hotel and you don't want anybody to know that it was you. So Michael Smith is like the premier name to choose.
Except Michael W. Smith, that musical genius. I got nothing. I don't even know what Michael W. Smith sounds like.
I don't know who Michael W. Smith is. Thank you for putting that into the zeitgeist.
He's true. He's a real guy. But I guess so Corey, you grew up in Michigan. Were there any haunted cemeteries that you went to as a kid?
I believe that most of the cemeteries in Michigan, if anybody rose from their graves, it was probably so they could get the hell out of Michigan.
You speak so highly of your hometown.
Years. I just got here by walking. It was just like, how far can I get from Lake Erie? This is about as far as I could get.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, there isn't really a ton beyond the actual story. I've never made it to Glen Beulah to see what is going on there. I've never seen any shady business in a cemetery. I was hoping you did.
No, we used to hang out at our local cemetery. It actually, I think, one of the local haunted houses took place in the house that was on the cemetery. So I remember going there a lot as a kid, and then as a teenager, it was just one of those spots that was so conveniently located. It was right across the street from our Meijer and from our mall that it was sort of en route to the way home. But it wasn't like we were having midnight parties at the cemetery. It was just kind of like a wander through. But I don't remember a lot of stories of being haunted, maybe because it was right next to a pretty prominent street.
Yeah, I don't know. Cemeteries have always been that place that's I don't know. There's just something weird about them. They're not really scary, but it's just the fact that there's.
It's because you're surrounded by the dead. I think that we put more emphasis on them because of what they are, and because you think, well, this is where you've got a collection of dead people. It's like if you had a collection of, I don't know, Grateful Dead fans. Then you expect You're going to go to the place where they're all dead and buried as they should be, and you're going to have a ton of the activity of Grateful Dead sorts. You're just going to keep hearing trucking playing over and over and over again. But that's to be expected because you're in the dead patch. Cemeteries, probably the same thing.
It's super duper weird, but I guess I get it.
If you have any thoughts on the story that we just talked about, leave us feedback by emailing weird@gncasts.com. That's GNCASTS.com. Weird@gncasts.com. You can call our voicemail number. It's 805-328-3966. Tweet at us, Facebook at us, or just leave a comment on the website, gncasts.com/weird.
If you like what you've heard on this Galactic Network podcast, please consider helping us out financially by going to gncast.com/support. On that page, you'll find links to our Patreon campaign where you can make a small recurring monthly pledge of as little as $1. Or click on our Amazon affiliate link, make a purchase, and we get a very small percentage from the sale. Again, go to gncast.com/support. And thank you for supporting the Galactic Network podcast.
Thank you for joining us for another edition of Weird World Weekly. If you'd like to read more about the stories we discussed, click on the links in our show notes or get in touch with us to suggest a subject for a future episode. I'm Dave Nelson, and until next time, keep it weird, everybody.
This has been a Galactic Network podcast. For more, go to gncast.com. That's gncast.com.